You just did a spiritual class. And in a spiritual class, they don't look for difficulties. They want everything to be flattened out. You know, everything to be easily digestible. But right there, nobody knows when Jesus was born, because one narrative tells us it's before 4 BC, and the other narrative tells us it's 780. 10, 11-year gap. So when was he born? Nobody knows. One narrative defeats the other. Which narrative is correct, if either? We don't know. So therefore, we don't know when Jesus was born. We don't know how old he was or anything like that.
How can we get the conception that he was born in the 0?
That's some dating problem in the Roman imperial calendar. I'm not terribly conversant. That's a later thing with Roman calendar computation. But it's not something that relates to this issue that we're dealing with at this time. It comes later. I don't know. In any case, if it isn't accurate anyway, because we have two different narratives. So 0 is not going to tell us when it is either. In any case, 0 doesn't agree with the material that we have. Sorry to do this. I don't really mean it. So anyway, I just want to show you that the material does agree with the beginning of the revolutionary movements. That's what I'm trying to point out. But let's go quickly to the rest of it. If I can get it straight, I get confused myself, but so the details are so confusing. In 1, in Luke, John and Jesus' mothers are friends, and then Jesus is born 6 months after John or something like that. And in any event, let me see if I can get this right. Jesus is already living in Bethlehem, and his parents, or is that Matthew? Oh no, that's Matthew. Jesus is already living. I'm already getting confused. Jesus is already living in Bethlehem, but because Herod wants to kill all the Jewish children, his parents flee to Egypt. Gets the Moses, the Jewish people, Joseph. Joseph is his father. Joseph's flight to Egypt. All of that is involved in that story. And then only later, when Archelaus comes in, do his parents move back to Galilee for some reason. No, I'm getting all confused. See, I'm getting all confused. In any event, in one narrative, Jesus' family lives in Bethlehem when he's born. In another narrative, I guess he's living in Galilee. His parents are living in Galilee, and because of the taxation, they have to go back to Bethlehem in order to be accounted by the census. And therefore there's no room at the inn, and therefore he's born in a manger, which sort of apparently is very suggestive of stories about Isis, Osiris, and Horus, and Mithra apparently is born in a manger, but forget all that stuff. The point of the matter is, the manger looks like springtime, it's not wintertime, and so on. All those issues develop. But that's Luke, and that's the census one of Quirinius. I don't think people had to go back to their hometown to be counted, otherwise the whole Roman Empire would have been in turmoil. That's just the pretense of Luke to get him to Bethlehem. In Matthew, he doesn't have to be gotten to Bethlehem. He's already there. He's got a house. He flees Bethlehem later when Herod wants to kill all the Jewish children and goes to Egypt. So there's two different versions. One, he's got his house. The other, he's in a manger. And most people don't know that, because what sticks in people's mind most? The manger. That's the beautiful thing with the animals, the star. But I think the star actually belongs to the Matthew story. The star is over his house, as I recall. Anyway, you have to put these side by side, and you'll see that they don't agree with each other at all. Not in date, not in detail, not in anything else. So they defeat each other. I'm not saying that one is good or bad. We can't tell from them when we get two conflicting testimonies what actually did happen, if anything happened. Mark and John know this, I think, and therefore they just toss it all out. They don't even mess with his infancy. John gives another, more mystical version. Mark just begins later. Mark is smart, because he doesn't accept these stories. If he knew a story, I think he would have put it in there, don't you? He doesn't really feel he has a credible story. Now, but what's my point? Not that. My point is not to shake you or anything like that. This, I thought, if you're a careful person, you would have seen anyway. But now, if you haven't, you'll look and you'll find out that I haven't steered you too far wrong on that. But the point is that what is interesting to me is that Jesus' birth in both cases coincides with the revolutionary movement in Josephus. Now, we call that movement over time the Zealots. That's another party, a revolutionary party started by Judas the Galilean and this Sadduc character. In the Antiquities, the second book of Josephus, Sadduc is added. In the first, we only have that one. And then sometimes they have a different name. They're called Sicarii, because Josephus says they later on developed an assassination streak where they would kill collaborating notable people, high priests and others who were collaborating with the Romans, something like you're getting in Iraq today. And they were called Sicarii because that's the Roman short, curved knife, Sika it's called, and they used to hide it under their garments, and then they would cut people's throats in the crowds, according to Josephus. Josephus hates the revolution. He may hate them because he's trying to survive in Rome, and therefore he has to be overstate the case. I don't think that's what these people were doing. I don't think that's the only thing they were doing. Now, these Sicarii are mentioned in Acts. When Paul is mobbed in the temple in Acts 21, when we get there, you'll see that the Roman soldier says to Paul, "Are you one of these Sicarii who was led out into the wilderness?" There were, I don't know how many, 3,000, 5,000, I forget what it says, Sicarii. You wouldn't know it said Sicarii unless you looked at the Greek, because in the English it probably will say, "Are you one of these assassins?" And you have to. That's why often you need the Greek, because the Greek can help you with it. So even that is mentioned in the scripture. Sicarii are there. Zealots are sometimes mentioned. Jesus has a colleague, doesn't he? One of his apostles. What's his name? Simon the Zealot. Simon Zelotes. Greek is Zelotes. This is again in the Gospel of Luke. Luke is read as Josephus, where the others are not always clearly having read. Though we know Luke was written after Josephus for these various things that come up from Josephus in Luke. And Zelotes is called, he isn't called Simon the Zelotes in